I'm Sarah,
I'm Maddie,
and this is CMSJ News.
and our topic today is slavery. To start off, we should go back in time.
Let's go to ancient India.
What were they called?
They were called untouchables.
How does one become an untouchable?
An untouchable is born into their caste system. Slavery was based on religion and debt.
What religion?
Hindu.
What about the dead?
Technically, they are not considered slaves, but they do owe debt to someone, and they are not allowed to leave unless they pay it off. But in most cases, they are never able to pay it off, making it seem as if they are slaves.
That seems really hard. What were their lives like?
Their lives were pretty miserable. They were responsible for impure jobs, such as grave digging, cleaning streets, and being garbage men.
How were untouchables used in the society?
Untouchables weren't used by anyone. They were just there. Nobody wanted to touch them or get near them. They even had wooden clappers to warn people that they were coming. They had to wear black clothing, they were not allowed to look at people, and they were not allowed to talk to anybody that was not in their caste.
Part about being an untouchable.
The worst part about being an untouchable is probably the isolation.
Were kids born into the untouchables?
Yes, their kids were born into their untouchable caste system, and they were not allowed to go up into the caste and move.
Thank you for that background information on slavery.
You're welcome. Now let's talk about modern slavery. What's the biggest form of modern slavery now?
The biggest form today would definitely be sex slavery. People become slaves by traffickers using violence, threats, blackmail, false promises, deception, manipulation, and debt bondage.
Sounds pretty awful.
Some are lured by the promises of legal work, some are sold by their boyfriends, friends, neighbors, even parents. Others are promised marriage, education, opportunities, and a better life.
What was slavery based on? Race, gender, debt, religion?
Human traffickers don't really look for a certain person. They look for anyone they can physically put into slavery, mentally force into slavery. They look for, in the United States, usually women or kids, and they look for whoever their clients or company want.
What was sex slaves' life like?
According to Trafficking Resource Center, sex slaves have a very difficult life. They are passed through many traffickers, making them further from their home. Women are traveled through multiple countries before they come to their final destination, making them become confused and disoriented. While in custody of their trafficker, they are obligated to pay back a large recruitment and transportation fee before they can be released into custody of their client. Before they get to serve their clients, they are forcibly raped by their traffickers, initiating the cycle of abuse and degradation. The victims are told they are illegally in the country, making them more dependent on their traffickers. Once in custody, their passport and official papers are taken from them and held. The victims are deprived of food and sleep and are unable to move freely and are physically tortured. They are kept in captivity. This is accomplished by the women being told that their family will be murdered or harmed if they tell anyone of their life. Victims experience various stages of degradation and physical and psychological torture. One of the causes of this is the unknown culture and language of where they are.
How are they used in society?
In society, they are used in resident brothels, escort services, fake massage businesses, strip clubs, street prostitution, any variety of the sex industry.
What is the single worst part of being a slave in this society?
The single worst part of being a slave in the sex industry is the mental and physical effect it has on you.
The effects of being a sex slave.
The effects of being a sex slave are that you're very likely to get HIV and get pregnant because of what your job is, and they go through so much. They are abused, held captive, sold, tortured, and so many other things that cause psychological stress and frustration. Even once out of slavery, these still affect them and make life really hard.
Considering that they are sex slaves, are there children born into it?
There are definitely children born into it.
They take precautions to avoid pregnancies?
They do, but sometimes those precautions don't work. When they find out a woman is pregnant, she could have a forced abortion, or they could just have the child and keep it in the sex slavery business.
We have more information on modern and ancient slavery. Let's compare them.
Here's Cassandra and Jesse to help us with that.
Thanks, Maddie and Sarah.
Jesse, what are the key differences between the slaves, ancient slaves, and future slaves?
Well, Sarah talked about the ancient slaves, which were the untouchables, which weren't officially considered slaves. They were responsible for impure jobs like picking up garbage and digging graves. They are basically jobs that we leave responsible for criminals today. Maddie chose a more modern approach with the U.S. sex trafficking. The natives were more responsible for work, and the sex slaves were confused and tricked into wanting to stay without knowing it, and they were repetitively raped or abused.
What were the similarities between them two?
I noticed the similarity of children being born into slavery. They also had a debt due, but they couldn't pay it, and they were people that others had around to just use for their needs.
Does one seem worse than the other?
Personally, I find them both pretty awful, but the U.S. sex trafficking was worse to me.
Why do you think this?
Because Maddie said a woman could be used to up to 30 times a day, and it leaves their victims physically and mentally torn apart.
What were the long-term effects for the untouchables?
Their heritage, because if you were born into a certain family, you were avoided for reasons that you couldn't do anything about. And people banged sticks together to warn people that you were coming.
What was the long-term effects for the sex slaves?
There were multiple. They had sexually transmitted diseases, depression, mental breakdowns, pregnancy, and living with the memory of having to be tortured.
How did the society justify the untouchables?
They made it seem alright because of the religion that they were in. The untouchables were in the lowest caste system possible, so they thought that they were basically a different species and thought it was okay to be treated the way that they were.
What about sex trafficking?
The sex slaves didn't really know better either, because they were confused by the traffickers and weren't chosen on any standards. The only thing that mattered was being a woman or a child, and they confused and drugged their slaves to make them think that it was okay to be with their traffickers, making them feel dependent on them.
How was slavery viewed in ancient India?
In ancient India, they thought that slavery was just like seeing somebody walk your dog. It was the normal societal thing to do, and they didn't see anything wrong with it.
What about today? How do we view it today?
Today it's basically frowned upon, because if you live in a family that was known for for slavery, you are basically shunned. Compared to other societies, America still does slavery, but it's frowned upon, and any slavery that is happening is on the down low, but in other countries it's still seen as something that's normal.
Thank you, Jesse, for your insight on the topics.
Do you know of any groups that are trying to stop slavery?
Yes, there are many out there.
Do you know of any in specific?
Yes, there's one organization called Free the Slaves.
What types of slavery are they working to end? Sex slavery, child slavery, work slavery, or anything else?
They're working to end sexual expulsion, other forms of labor, debt bondage, which is where you have to pay debt, and in most countries is illegal.
What part of the world is this organization focused on most?
India.
Why is it such a big problem in this region of the world?
It is such a big problem in India because compared to all the other countries, India has the largest concentration of slavery in all its forms.
Where does the demand for this type of slavery come from?
The demand for this type of slavery comes from the lack of money and work needed to be done.
What is this organization's main plan?
The organization Freeing the Slaves is a non-profit who gets donations, spreads the word, and they're just in it for freeing the slaves.
Can you assess what you think of this plan?
I think this plan is a very good approach.
Does it seem doable for this organization or not?
Yes, they have done it before in other countries. They can do it again.
Can you explain why?
Free the Slaves organization, they're only in it to end slavery, and that's their main focus, really nothing else.
Thank you for the insight on Free the Slaves.
Let's bring it back to Maddie and Sarah.
Slavery is a big thing today, but not many people
people should get informed on it.
For more information, go to Free the Slaves website or just Google slaves.
If you see anything suspicious and think it's involved in sex slavery, call 1-888-373-7888.
That's all for today. I hope you go and spread the word about slavery.
Thanks for watching CMSJ News. Hi, I'm Maddie. Hi, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Sarah.
I'm Maddie.
And this is CMS.
To start off, we should go back in time. We need to go back in time.
Let's go to ancient India.
Why?
Cassandra, you're laughing and it's making me nervous!
What was slavery based on? Gender? Sarah! What was slavery based on? Gender, race, religion, debt?
Slavery.
Rolling.
How were they?
Should I stop going in there?
Still rolling.
Sarah!
Did you just say ready, set, toe?
Yes, here is Cassandra. Dang it. Thanks, Cassandra. If you see anything suspicious. If you see anything suspicious.
I missed the best at slaves.
Oh my god, I pressed it.
I had it. I can't do it.